Welcome to Bet On It. I am Kelly Stewart. It is week 9 of the NFL. Let's bring in Joe Raineri and Marco D'Angelo of WagerTalk.com. We've got an exhilarating one on Thursday night, you guys. That's right. The Philadelphia Eagles taking on those Houston Texans. You know, my God, this Houston Texans team, a lot of people bet them last week thinking they were the sharp side, and Derrick Henry made them pay. 14-point favorites on the road, total 45. I want nothing to do with this game. I'm going to be really honest with you guys. Slight lean towards the Texans. Philadelphia, how much do they care about this game? Just another ugly Thursday night game. Joe Raineri, I'm going to go to you first because I never do. So tell me what your thoughts are on Thursday Night Football.
Oh, this is sorry, I had a little something in my throat. This is going to be disgusting, Cal. Like most of these damn Thursday night and primetime games, it's awful. How in the world? I mean, I don't think we've had a bigger discrepancy with teams and winning percentages in 20 years of doing these Thursday night games. I mean, this is as terrible as it gets. And anybody who watched that Houston team last week against Tennessee, going up against a rookie quarterback, they had absolutely no interest in winning that game whatsoever. It was almost as if they were tanking. Go figure here. Well, I'll tell you who's not tanking. The Eagles. And you know where they're definitely not tanking? Yeah, not only are they 7-0 on the season, Cal, they are 7-0 against the first half spread this year. They are dominating teams in the second quarter, which has been well documented. They tend to take their foot off the gas a little bit in the second half, but as far as I'm concerned, they're not going to mess around with the Texans here. They're going to come out, they're going to smash them, they're going to go in with a 2-3 score lead, and then they're going to coast in the second half because, again, the Texans have zero interest in competing here this season here, and that was evident last week against the Titans with no quarterback and Derrick Henry, who you let run, by the way, for over 200 yards for the fourth straight time. Really? You're going to let the dude run for over 200 yards 4 straight games? Well, listen, that's Derrick Henry. What is Philadelphia? What is the yardage they're going to gain on the ground against this Houston sieve of a defense? First half for me all the way. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Eagles in the first half, lay the touchdown. They'll be up way more than that by halftime.
Probably. Double-digit favorites have done considerably well in the NFL historically. Marco, I know that's a Ralph TNA stat, but are you laying the double digits, not only double digits, but double digits on the road?
Oof.
I can't do it, Kelly. In Houston, on the show last week, we were on them. It was the sandwich of all sandwich games for Tennessee. But what ended up happening late in the week, we find out no Ryan Tannehill. And although none of us are big fans of his, it did kick in another angle that actually dictates the other side, the injured player theory in Tennessee, in a game that they weren't supposed to be focused in, suddenly became focused because they had to compensate for the quarterback injury. But when you got Derrick Henry, really, do you need a quarterback? You just hand the ball off and let him go, and that's what they did. Houston couldn't stop the run. And how are they going to stop the run here? Starts everything with that potent rushing attack, and it sets up the rest of that offense. But it's a Thursday night game. It's a team you're playing that you don't play twice a year. We talk about road teams on Thursdays at a disadvantage, even more so when it's a non-division team because you don't have the familiarity with the opponent. I can't lay 14 points on the road. I'm sorry. I don't care how big of a discrepancy it is on a short week. For me, it's Houston or nothing. I am looking at Houston to keep this one close. And I'll give you a key stat here. This is a league-wide stat. Play against road favorites who are outscoring their opponents by 10 points or more per game, following a win by 10 points or more. Sounds pretty simple. If you would have done that in the NFL the last 10 years, blindly, 46-17 against the spread. That tells me to go ahead and take Houston plus the points for Thursday night.
All right, Marco, I'm going to kick it right back to you for another double-digit primetime game. I'm going to go ahead and guess the NFL wasn't expecting this one. Chiefs a 12.5-point favorite, total 46.5 in Arrowhead. Sounds like no Ryan Tannehill again for the Titans. Can Kansas City stop the run? And that is the biggest question mark for me here in regards to if I'm going to be betting this game.
Well, Kelly, let's start with the advantage. The advantage obviously goes to Kansas City because of the bye week. They've had 2 weeks to prepare. This is a team that really needed it. They had a tough 3-week stretch. If you look at their last 3 games, and really, to be honest, let's make it 4. They played Tampa Bay on the road on a Sunday night game. Then they played a division rival on Monday Night Football when they played the Raiders. Did they get caught looking ahead in that one? Almost, I should say, but the Raiders decided to go for 2 instead of the game-tying extra point and go to overtime, and they escaped 30-29. Then they had that big rematch game with Buffalo. It was everything we thought it would be other than high scoring. The two teams went back and forth. They went up and down the field, but found a way to shoot themselves in the foot when they got into the red zone, and Buffalo came away with a 24-20 victory. There should have been more points in that game. And then 2 weeks ago, they played San Francisco. San Francisco was decimated in that game with injuries, and they won 44-23. I look at Tennessee. I'm not sold on the Kansas City defense. I think they will be able to shorten the game, Tennessee, with that running game. And if it is Willis going at quarterback, he's had a game under his belt now. Yes, that gives Kansas City a chance to see some game film, but there is still that unknown factor because what did he really do last week? He only threw the football 10 times. All they did was hand off to Derrick Henry. So I think you're going to see a few wrinkles in the offense the second week with him in the lineup. And getting this many points, we only need to make a few plays, especially if Tennessee has success running the football and shortening the game. Give me Tennessee plus the points. Am I sprinkling? No, I'm not. Kansas City will find a way to win, but I'm taking Tennessee plus the generous spread here. I'm not sold on the Kansas City defense just yet. Give me Tennessee plus the points on Sunday Night Football.
Joe, I'm with Marco. I haven't been sold on this Kansas City defense for a long time. Titans in Nashville can get the best of this Kansas City team. Do you think they can do it in Arrowhead?
Well, I tell you what, I'm a fan of, and that is Andy Reid on a bye coming into this game with more than 13 days to prepare for a Titans team with now what looks like a rookie quarterback, and Derrick Henry, which, let's face it, they all know here. The reality is, there's going to be a few wrinkles, and it's going to be with Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City offense, and it's going to happen early, and it's going to happen often in the first half of this game. If there's going to be an issue where Derrick Henry starts to take over because you're a little bit worried about that KC defense, it's going to happen in the second half, and that's only if it's a close game. I don't think it is. I think Mahomes and Andy Reid are going to want to go out there and make sure Tennessee is playing from behind, where it won't matter if Derrick Henry runs the ball or not. You're never going to have enough time to be able to come back. I think Mahomes, I think Andy Reid, I think the complement of weapons there got a little healthier. They will be ready to go and come out of the gun firing early and often in this game. I absolutely think not only will they be ahead at the half, I think that the touchdown that you got to lay with KC in the first half, I'll take it all day long. Lay it because, to me, the whole goal here for Kansas City is going to be get it to a 2-score game and take Derrick Henry out of the game. Make Willis have to beat you. Don't think he can do that, Cal.
All right, sounds like we're a little head-to-head to start the show. We're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, it's time to talk to Ralph for some TNA.
Have you checked out all the new handicappers at WagerTalk? If not, here's your chance. You can take 50% off your first daily or 3-day all-access purchase at WagerTalk using coupon code TRYWT. Our new roster of experts is 30 deep, covering sports from all around the world, giving you tons of options to choose from. All you have to do to redeem this offer is go to WagerTalk.com, choose a handicapper of your choice, and use coupon code TRYWT at checkout. saving 50% on your first purchase.
Welcome back to Bet On It. It's now time for some TNA with our good friend, Ralph Michaels. Ralph, happy Wednesday. I know you've dug up a lot of stuff for us this week, and you've also got a little extra TNA from us from your son, Jeff.
Yeah, well, we're going to start off. He gave us a couple in college, and I really like the work he's doing using the database. This one sort of wowed me. It's not easy that I get impressed looking at systems and angles, but if you are a non-division away dog that is a line of 5 or less, you're off a loss as a home dog or a pick, and you scored under 21 points. So, like he did over in college TNA segment, he breaks out conference trends. Well, here in the NFL, he's looking at much more division and non-division stuff. So you're a non-division away dog of 5 or less. You lost your last game as a home dog or a pick, and you had a bad offensive performance, scoring under 21 points. Well, that applies to the LA Rams. The record since 2014, 24-2. That is 92.3%. Do you look past that team? They're a non-division foe. They didn't score much, but the Rams fall into a 92.3% ATS category because they're a small non-division away favorite of 5 or less, off a loss as a home dog or pick, scoring under 21 points. Very good one, son. I'm going to go with one that we've used before, but it applies to Arizona. There are a number of systems that go against the Arizona Cardinals this week. This is just one of them. If you're a small away favorite of 3.5 or less, and you were off an away loss where you were trailing from the third quarter on. We ignore the last 2 weeks of the season as people are resting, but this system, 14 wins, 36 ATS losses, that is 28%. So that is a 72% situation to fade Arizona. Well, I had Miami last week, and watching that first half, that was ugly. But, this is the Detroit Lions, and Johnny always tells me, boy, just live bet against the Lions in the second half, and it came to fruition again. So I wanted to look at how NFL teams do when they're trailing by 9 or more at halftime, and they win the game. Well, I went back to 2012. When you are trailing by 9 or more, you have only covered 38.6% of the time the next game. So that would say to fade Miami. If you trailed by 9 or more, you won the game, and now you're on the road, again, like the Dolphins, those teams are 17-42, 28.8%. So it says you make that big comeback and you have to go on the road, you have not been in a positive role. So that situation says to fade the Miami Dolphins. Like I do with most systems, if we're looking at one side of it, let's look at the opposite. See what happens. What happens if you had a lead by 9 or more at halftime and you lost the game, like Detroit? Well, when I punched it in, it was basically a break even. 58 wins, 57 losses against the spread, 50.4%. But when I started looking at subsets, how they do in certain situations, if the team had a lead of 9 or more and lost the game and were at home, they've only covered 44.4% the next time. And if they lost that game at home and now they're at home again, like Detroit is, they've covered only 33.3% of the time. So that's exactly how I normally build systems. You look at situations, you start looking at subsets, you start looking at another subset. So it doesn't matter if you had a lead and lost or had a deficit and won. If you're on the road, like Miami, it's a negative. If you're at home, like Detroit, it's also been a negative.
And Ralph, I know you have a nerd chart for us. My favorite thing on the planet. What did you dig up for us this week?
Well, this is a chart that really doesn't apply, but I get asked this question a lot, so I wanted to get it out there so people can see it. What happens in a second divisional meeting? You see to the left of the chart, It's if a team lost as a home favorite in the first meeting, if a team lost as a home dog, if a team lost as an away favorite, if you lost as an away dog. Well, the first one makes total sense. If you lost your first game as a home favorite, you have covered 60.9% of the time in the second game. That applies to Cincinnati week 11, the Giants week 12, and Jacksonville week 17. If you lost as a home dog, it's been a negative of 40.7%. It doesn't apply this week. It applies to Arizona and Washington weeks 10. If you look below, I threw down two quick things that you can look at. I started digging into some subsets. If you lost both games last year, you lost the first game of the current season, and now you're a dog, that'll be like the New York Giants week 12. Those teams have covered 71.1% of the time. And take a look, another play against Arizona. If you're a division home favorite of 6 or less with double revenge, you have only covered 28.3% of the time. So that situation says to fade Arizona. Again, I have Arizona in there, but the system's a negative at 28%. So the top one says to play the Giants week 12. The bottom one says to fade the Arizona Cardinals this week against Seattle.
That's a double Cardinals fade if you guys are paying attention there at home. Thank you to Ralph at Cal Sports LV. If you guys want your own nerd chart created, just make sure to tweet him. Also his son at JM Sports CLE. He's over at sportsmemo.com. All right, Ralph, I got to let you go and bring it back in Marco and Joe. That's right. It's time for those teasers. Not a lot of great teaser spots this week. Saints might have started to fall into one. Look like they're currently 2.5, but that's pretty much about it. Marco, I know you got to get creative sometimes when there's not a great teaser spot. I just want to axe a segment altogether, but you won't let me. So who is your teaser for NFL Week 9?
Kelly, I've got a teaser, and you know what? I talked about this last week, and I told your good friend John Murray about you in the teasers, and he said, tell Kelly not to abandon them. And we talked about it. As the season progresses, the lines get tighter, and we're going to get back to where that extra 6 points is going to come into play. So don't abandon those teasers. Keep playing them. Steady the course. We'll get there. And let's start with Cincinnati. They're laying 7.5 in this game. We're going to use the 6-point teaser to bring them down to have them just win the game. And why shouldn't they win the game? They're playing the Carolina Panthers. Yes, I know the Carolina Panthers put up 34 points last week. That was against Atlanta. It was a crazy game. They ended up losing the game because they scored the game-winning touchdown, or at least we thought, on the final seconds of the game, and they're celebrating. And the guy that scored the touchdown, how dare he, took his helmet off and got a penalty. Unsportsmanlike conduct, moved them back 15 yards. And what happened? They missed the extra point and went to overtime, only to miss another field goal in overtime and then end up losing the game. I want no part of Carolina in this game. And quick note, they have a quick rematch with Atlanta from last week's game. And, when is that rematch? Thursday Night Football. They're going to be looking ahead to their probably only appearance in prime time. I'll take Cincinnati just to win this game. The second half of it, while the NFL, I think it was a mercy scheduling because these two teams are just bleeding out right now. The LA Rams and Tampa Bay Bucks. One of them is going to get right, at least for the week, unless they play to a tie. Never, and that wouldn't bother me because I'm teasing the Rams up to 8.5. You got a team plus 2.5 with a total of 42.5. Points are supposed to be at a premium in here, and if you've watched these two teams play lately, points have been a premium. The Rams looked horrible last week against the 49ers. And, well, Tampa Bay, what can I say? Poor Tom. He had a rough week. Thursday Night Football, making it official on Friday with the divorce proceedings and everything. Let's go grab the points in a low-scoring game. This is the classic Wong teaser. We're going to go ahead and take the Rams plus 8.5.
Classic Wong teaser, 6 points, -110. Happy shopping for those because they almost don't even exist anymore. Joe Raineri, who is your teaser for this week in the NFL?
Well, we had to get creative here. We did it also last week. We busted out the old world famous 10-point teaser, the 3-team 10-point teaser at -120 here, guys. And, well, it worked pretty well last week because we did have 3 double-digit favorites that in those 10-point teasers all covered. We have another 2 this week with the Buffalo Bills. We have the Kansas City Chiefs there, and I'm going to go with a divisional dog in the third leg there, Cal, one in which we have seen divisional dogs be extremely profitable this season, right? We just saw it on Monday night there with the Cleveland Browns. A divisional dog with an opportunity to win. They did. So I am going to use that 10-point teaser on the third leg for the Seattle Seahawks, because if you think anybody is betting Arizona at home after what they have shown, oh, hell no. And don't forget, this one opened up 3.5, even 4 in some spots, and it's obviously been all Seattle money to start this week. So can't say I blame them. So listen, why mess around, right? Let's get creative at -120. Give me Buffalo down to -2. Give me Kansas City down to -2.5, and give me the Seahawks +12 in this one, Cal.
Joe, you're hurting my heart.
I know.
But sometimes you got to get a little creative here. I will take the Saints and the Seahawks in a pretty traditional teaser of my own. I don't even need to ask if Joe is high going into commercial break, because after that teaser, I know he is.
Get kinky, damn it. Let's go.
You're a winner at WagerTalk even before the game is played with our Wager Rewards program. How does it work? Simple. Earn Wager Rewards on every purchase made at WagerTalk and Sports Memo. Those Wager Rewards can be converted into Wager Bucks on the first of every month. There is no additional fee to participate, and no additional details are required outside your valid WagerTalk or Sports Memo membership. On the first of each month, 5% of your Wager Rewards will be converted to Wager Bucks, which are available to purchase on all future purchases. Doesn't it feel good to be part of a rewards program with no additional hoops?
Joe. Yeah, I already mentioned Joe is high. Very, very high. But are the totals too high or not high enough for this week?
There's a little bit of each here this week, Cal. But I think we're going to go with a team that, I root for, and I know them pretty well, and they rip my heart out every time this year. But I think there's an opportunity to cash a ticket with them, and that is the New York Jets and the Buffalo Bills. Another home dog divisional matchup here. We just saw Buffalo and Green Bay, didn't we? Right around this number on the other night, and I could have sworn the under hit there. Buffalo tends to do this, don't they? Buffalo tends to sometimes make games a little bit closer than they should be. Now, this is, to me, the only game this week, Cal, in which you have 2 top 5 defenses going at each other overall, with the Jets and the Buffalo Bills. Now, take Mama's boy, Zach Wilson, take him out of the equation here. We're not going to anticipate a whole lot of throwing all over the field and doing, this is not going to be a shootout by any stretch of the imagination. I do think that this has got under written all over it. I think this number is a little bit high. We have talked about it before, Cal. These divisional unders have been money. I won't be taking the Jets, but I will be taking the under, because I think that number is just a little bit too high. And don't forget, of course, Green Bay played the Jets. Green Bay played the Buffalo Bills, and both of them won. I think this game is going to be a little bit tighter, and I do think that the under, ultimately, at the end of the day, is going to cash a ticket.
Yeah, I'd be betting these divisional unders today. Don't wait until Sunday or Monday. As Joe mentioned, that under with Monday night's divisional game landed right on the number. I bet under 47 on Wednesday, and it closed 45. And what would you know? It just happened to hit right on the money. Those bookmakers, damn them. Marco D'Angelo, I'm really hungry. Slate, getting late in the afternoon here. I don't know where my food delivery is at, but I heard you got a sandwich for me.
Ooh.
I got a sandwich, Kelly, and I'm kind of hungry myself right now, so I could go for a big old sandwich. And I don't know that we got a bigger sandwich. We already talked about it in the teaser section with Carolina. Atlanta, they're in that same sandwich spot. Atlanta played on Sunday, Carolina in that thriller 37-34. And then they're going to come right back in 4 days on Thursday Night Football and play Carolina again. So how are they going to be mentally prepared for this one, especially since the Chargers are coming off their bye week? They've had 2 weeks to prepare. And there's one thing I like to look at with these teams in the bye weeks. Teams that go into the bye week on a roll, I don't like them out of the bye week so much. The last thing you want to do is have the bye when everything's going well. It breaks your momentum. But if you go into the bye on a bad note, you know you're going to use those 2 weeks to focus, reset the button, and get everybody on the same page. And that's what we're going to see with Seattle in this game, or excuse me, the Chargers, because right before their bye week, they got beat by Seattle 37-23. So definitely not a good situation. 2 weeks to prepare. And here's my point. We know that the Chargers can score points. I'm looking at this Atlanta defense. They gave up 34 points last week and 478 yards. They played Carolina. Let me reset the Carolina Panthers. This is a team that had Baker Mayfield and benched him, went to P.J. Walker, not a household name as far as quarterbacks go. He was the Temple quarterback in college. And they put up 34 points and 478 yards without Christian McCaffrey. He's not in the backfield anymore. And, they couldn't score when they had him. And what did he do the first full week with the 49ers last week? Oh, he threw for a touchdown, he ran for a touchdown, and he caught a touchdown. That's a pretty good hat trick. Hat tricks are in hockey. I am going with the Chargers. I'm laying the points on the road. I don't see how Atlanta gets the job done. I'm calling it Chargers 31-20. That is the sandwich game of the week.
Ooh, Marco with the road chalk. I don't know. We've been giving Prez an awful lot of grief for that contest entry for eating it up every week, and yet he keeps winning. The squarest dog, the biggest favorite. Prez eats it up, and I don't know if he's lost a game yet. So he'll be joining you on that Chargers pick, Marco, but I'm going to be sure to let him know that you also are a chalk-eating weasel. I'm going to kick it right back to you because I want the opposite of chalk for this segment. It's called Barking Dogs, which means I want an underdog that you guys think is capable of winning the game outright.
Well, Kelly, you better call the Humane Society because this one's got rabies, the one I'm going with. And I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I am going to. The Detroit Lions is my barking dog this week. Johnny Detroit will be happy, and maybe I should just make this a first half wager because I was giving Johnny a lot of grief again last week because it's like watching Groundhog Day on endless loop when you watch the Lions. But do I want any part of Green Bay this week? I know they suck it up last week. They got the W for their backers and for you, Kelly. But did you ever watch a game in which you covered the spread, in which you felt like at any given moment you could have lost that game by 3 touchdowns or more? I mean, you were hanging on for dear life in that game the entire game. And that's the way the season's been for the Green Bay Packers, and I just can't do it. What kept Green Bay in the game last week is somehow they found a rushing attack that gained 208 yards last week against Buffalo. That kept them in it. It shortened the game. But this week, I just don't see them bringing the same fire on the road. Yeah, it's a division game, but Green Bay, there's big problems there. They did get a big pass play out of one of the rookies, and you saw Aaron Rodgers, go to him right away on the sidelines and, be the cheerleader and, give him the rah-rah, that a boy, but it ain't going to be enough. This will be one of those games where I think Detroit finally gets the job done, who's going to want to take them plus 3.5 as they puked the game away again last week? Give me Detroit plus the points. I've got them pulling the outright upset 28-24. And a quick note on Green Bay. This is a bad scheduling spot, even though it's a division game. This is going to be their 4th road game in 5 consecutive weeks. And not only 4 road games in 5, they are playing back-to-back road games this week. And if you remember, one of those road games was on the road in London. Horrible spot for this team. They got to be tired. They got to be fed up with the season. I'm taking the Lions.
I don't hate that, Marco. I was on Green Bay as my best bet last week because I couldn't find anything better, and they got it done for me by the hook. I could see this being just an absolute flat spot against a divisional rival. Joe Raineri, Marco came at least with a field goal dog. Tell me you've got a bigger one for me.
Yeah, I do, as a matter of fact. And while I did agree with half a leg of his teaser there, I think the reality is the Cincinnati Bengals are in trouble, guys. I hate to break the news to you. Joe Burrow without Jamar Chase is like, Cheech without Chong. It just doesn't work with the weed. It just doesn't work at all. There is absolutely no way you could watch how they got manhandled there against the Browns and think, no, this offense will figure it out in a short week. No, it's not, guys. They are in trouble. And yet you've got a Carolina team that has shown us they are a better team. Like it or not, they are a much better team with P.J. Walker there that's building confidence. Not to mention, we've seen Cincinnati before. 0-6 against the number at home off a divisional road game. 0-4 against the number as a non-divisional favorite of 7 or more. This game was 7.5. It is now 7 here. And we also know that in this series, Carolina's held its own here, 7-3 against the number. They're actually doing pretty good too, being able to get points and to keep games competitive. While I do think Cincinnati may find a way to win this thing late, I by no means think this has got blowout by Cincinnati, who's got a lot of things to figure out. Namely, they can't run the ball, and you're not going to be able to run it and figure it out on Carolina. I think they're in trouble. No Jamar Chase. There's no Bengals in my future. I can only take Carolina and the points, and you may want to sprinkle a little something there just in case.
Well, I hope the game lands 3 so you can both win.
Probably where it's
because
going.
I'm a team player. Wait, that actually doesn't work. 6-point teaser. The game lands 3. Yeah, everybody wins.
That's correct.
See? It's got to do a little bit of math, guys.
See?
Math is hard, Kelly.
Math is hard. That's my favorite insult on Twitter. Oh, but God, math sometimes is not my strong suit. Let's take a quick commercial break. When we come back, time for Prop Shop.
Each and every Monday is $9 Monday at both WagerTalk.com and SportsMemo.com, when all daily picks packages are priced at only $9, including 5% best bets, normally priced at $35. As an added bonus, any picks packages loaded early for Overnight Tuesday or action during the week will also be priced at $9 until midnight on Monday. So make sure to take advantage of getting these $25 and $35 picks for only $9 before the clock strikes 12 and they return to regular price.
Welcome back to Bet On It. It's now time to see what Ariel and Andy have up their sleeve for week 9 of the NFL prop slate. This is Prop Shop. Andy Lang at Bump Sports on Twitter. Ariel Epstein at Ariel Epstein. Make sure to give both of these guys a follow so you don't miss out on anything. And if you're new here, they're going to both give us a best bet for Thursday night football in terms of the prop market, because as you guys know, on Wednesday afternoon, most of the market is not showing a ton of value right now in props or have any props available whatsoever. So we're going to get into what these guys are looking for in terms of this week in NFL. Ariel, I'm going to mix it up here. I'm going to let you go first. Tell me what we're looking at. Were we looking at running backs, wide receivers? We got some sack props, maybe something fun up your sleeve?
It's going to be for prime time, and I love what the Kansas City Chiefs have done against pass-catching running backs. The Chiefs have allowed for the most receiving yards to running backs this season. Now you get 2 running backs in Tennessee, whether it's Derrick Henry or Dontre Hilliard, who have been so good. They have been top 3 in receiving yards on the Titans this season. I'm going to go target either of them just based on the numbers. Again, this game is in a few days, so I don't have the number yet. Those will be 2 running backs I'll be targeting in the passing game more than even in the run game, even though it will be a lot of people's instincts to go bet Derrick Henry again because he just ran for another 200-yard rushing game against the Texans. No. Against the Chiefs, you go with pass-catching running backs. Go get someone out of the backfield. It'll be one of those 2 for me, Cal.
Love that. That gives us something fun to look forward for Sunday night. Andy Lang, you've had some first quarter unders that cashed very nicely lately, except the one I bet on. But that's beside the point. That is not your fault. I am clearly the mush. And I sent a whole list of my friends, and that week you went, I think, 2 and 3. Last week, a little bit better. What do you got up your sleeve for us this week?
Well, I went cautious for first quarter unders. There were 14 games on the weekend and Monday night, and first quarter unders went 10 and 4. I only played one of them, Patriots and Jets. That one hit. I was cautious this weekend and kind of kicking myself because honestly, I left money on the table. I did not play as many as I should have. All of the late games, I believe, went under. So sometimes when you play it cautious, you leave some money on the table. But as we always say, would rather lay off of a winner than give out a loser. So we did hit our one over the weekend. I'll be looking at more of them this weekend. But yes, kind of crying over spilled money by not taking more of those over the weekend. But the trend continues, and we have a lot more teams that are profitable in the first quarter unders than the overs. So we'll keep playing this out for the rest of the season.
I love that, because misery loves company, Andy. I did the same thing on Sunday. I left a lot on the table, went really cautious after a crappy Saturday. It is what it is. But, it's better to be responsible. It could have been an absolute utter bloodbath, and you'd have been thanking yourself for not getting involved. Ariel, I need a best bet for Thursday night football. I know it's not exactly the most exciting game, but let's see if we can't find some value on the board.
I've got to go with the Eagles running back Miles Sanders over 80.5 rush yards. Against the only bottom 10 defense that Sanders faced this season, the Detroit Lions, Sanders had 96 rushing yards with a touchdown in that spot. Now he's getting his second bottom 10 defense of the season, who happens to be the worst run defense of the year, the Houston Texans, who just allowed for over 200 rushing yards to Derrick Henry last week. I'm going to back the trend again over on the rushing yards for Sanders. I know that Andy also mentioned something to me, and I hate stealing people's stats, so I'll defer to him. Something about running the football in as opposed to throwing it in, Andy, in Thursday Night Football.
Yeah, the Houston Texans, why pass touchdowns when you can have a conga line of running backs just waltzing into the end zone? Houston's only had 2 receiving touchdowns by wide receivers this season, but 10 rushing touchdowns by running backs. They've also given up 2 to tight ends. But you're just seeing these offenses run the ball into the end zone against Houston instead of passing it. So I'd tread a little bit lightly when you're looking at some of these touchdown props for A.J. Brown or some of the receivers. So that was just something I noticed as I was going over the stats that Houston, you look at some of these touchdown props from the running backs. I noticed Kenneth Gainwell is plus 310. That could be a really interesting 3-1 prop late in the game if the game gets out of hand and Gainwell is running out the clock for the Eagles.
Of course, last week is when I played A.J. Brown in fantasy. Not this week. It never fails. You want to have a wide receiver go off, just play me in fantasy. Andy, before we let you guys go, I need your best bet for Thursday Night Football.
Sure, I got to mention a couple of guys to keep your eye on this weekend. When the prop lines come out, take a look at Deontay Foreman and Chuba Hubbard. Bengals rush defense is not good right now. They just got run all over 44 times for 172 yards on Monday Night Football. Short week. If Chuba Hubbard plays, he's going to be fresh. He's going to be rested. Foreman ran absolutely fantastic last weekend. Take a look at those guys. Also take a look at Evan Ingram receptions. He's had 4, 5, and 6 the last 4 games for Jacksonville. The Raiders don't give up a ton of yards to tight ends, but they give up a lot of short catches. Perfect example, Travis Kelce had 25 yards against the Raiders, but 7 catches. So take a look at Ingram receptions. And then here in Indianapolis, I'm keeping a very, very close eye on this situation. Deion Jackson for the Indianapolis Colts. Go get him in your fantasy leagues and look for his props. Jonathan Taylor's banged up. He aggravated his ankle injury earlier today. He's not practicing. We're recording this on Wednesday. Nyheim Hines got traded. Jackson was absolutely fantastic when he filled in as a starter a couple weeks ago. This is a guy that could win you some of your fantasy leagues if the Colts decide to shelve Jonathan Taylor. So take a look at that backup running back for the Colts. For my best bet, it's a high number, but I'm going over. Eagles over 14.5 for their team total in the first half. I am going to take the hook here. They've gone over this total in 6 out of 7 games this season in the first half, and they get the worst rush defense in the NFL. It gives up 5.6 yards a carry. The Texans have given up over this total only once this season, but look at the offensives that they played. The Titans with Willis as a quarterback, the Raiders, the Jaguars, the Chargers, the Bears, the Broncos, and the Colts. They faced no top 10 scoring offenses this year, but they faced 4 offenses in the bottom 10 of scoring. The Eagles are the 3rd highest scoring team in the league, right behind the Kansas City Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills. This is going to be an offense that the Houston Texans have not seen at all this year. Philadelphia is one of the best scoring teams in the first half. The last 3 games, they've averaged 18.3 in the first half. Give me the 14.5. It's a big number, but I'm going to lay it against a terrible Houston Texans defense.
All right. Thank you to Andy and Ariel, as always, bringing the heat for those prop bets because, let's be honest, I know nothing about them. So they're keeping me in some of these games that I would have never gotten involved in. Thank you to Andy. Thank you to Ariel. Make sure you're following both of them on Twitter. We're going to take our last commercial break. When we come back, it's time for those best bets.
Tuesdays is known as $2 Tuesdays at WagerTalk.com and SportsMemo.com, where you can get the hottest handicappers' best bet or daily package for only $2.
Welcome back to Bet On. It's now time for best bets, and I hate this week's NFL card. I absolutely despise it. I was going to take the Saints +3, but now on the WagerTalk odds screen, it's 2.5. You all know I have a little bit of a conscience and cannot do that. So I'm going to take my second best pick, and that is the Bears +5. If you guys have been paying attention, we talk about these 5 and 5.5 spreads that these dogs magically win outright. It's kind of that trap line. They used to say 5 was a dead number. And while it's a dead number, it's not as dead as it used to be. Now, I know Chicago has a vulnerable defense, but what have we seen when this team wins games? That's right. They can beat teams with the pass. Yes, Miami and Tua and Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are a great offense. But these deficits that they've had to overcome have been by throwing the ball down the field. I do think Chicago's defense is going to come to play here. Put up 29 points in consecutive games after kind of starting the season off a little cold. I think maybe we need to give Justin Fields just a little bit more credit here. I'm taking the Bears +5 at home, and they're going to break that crappy, terrible against the spread streak at Soldier Field as underdogs. I am very aware they have only covered 1 of their last 7 there as a dog. We're going to get it done on Sunday. Marco, now for your gross play this week in the NFL, because I think you may hate this card more than I do.
Kelly, yeah, I went to the same game as you, but I'm not involved in a side. I'm involved in a total. This might be my first total as a best bet this season. And we're going to go to Miami-Chicago game under the total. And you might say, Marco, what the hell are you doing? Did you see the scores last week? Miami was involved in a 31-27 game, and Chicago was involved into a 49-29 game. Why am I going under 45.5? Well, you know what, Kelly? I always tell you, don't overreact to one game. You know what the look-ahead line was on this game for the total? How about 41.5? We're getting a 4-point adjustment off of 1 week. Now, let's go back and look. And you mentioned Chicago. The last 2 weeks, they've scored 33 and 29 points. Well, let's go to that 33-point game. That was the Monday night game against New England. That game was absolutely plain ugly for the Patriots. I think the Pats felt They just had to show up Monday Night Football and they were going to win that game. They turned the football over 4 times in that game. That is what led to the points for Chicago. Last week, Chicago scored 29 against Dallas, who's supposed to have a pretty good defense. Well, what happened in that one last week is Dallas jumped out to an early lead, and once you fall behind by a couple scores, you're going to abandon the running game. You got to start throwing the football, and all of a sudden, the tempo of the game is dictated by what happened early on, and it became a track meet. Same thing in the Miami game. Miami played Detroit, and somehow the Lions jumped out to a 14-0 lead before you blinked your eye. And Miami was in catch-up mode the entire game, and they actually did catch up and pull it out as the Lions did what the Lions do. That's not going to be the case this week. Miami's going to control this game, and I don't see Chicago scoring as many points as they did the last 2 weeks. In fact, you mentioned, Kelly, that they've had success running the football, and that's the only way Chicago's going to have a chance in this game. So you're going to see a lot of running. That's going to shorten the game. Miami, they're going to take advantage of things as well. Chicago gave up 200 yards on the ground last week to Dallas. Miami's going to try to run the football. And speaking about running the football, you don't run the football on Miami. The last 3 opponents, 78, 95, and 82 yards rushing. 4 of the last 5, they held to 95 yards or less. The only team that topped that was the Jets, and that was when they were without Tua, and the Jets had a huge lead in that game and were just running the football to close out the game. I like this one under the total of 45.5. Let them keep betting this game up. I'll make my move later in the week because the public likes the over. I like the under. I'll get the best number a little later in the week. Take it under the total, but we'll go on record for 45.5 right now.
Ooh, Marco, that really makes me happy about my best bet points at a premium. Let's just hope for like a 21-17 type game, maybe. I'll take it. Joe Raineri, by the skin of my teeth, that's how I got to cash best bets this year. It has just been a sweat and never easy. Joe, give me an easy winner. Come on. There's got to be one on the board on this horrific slate that's just an easy. I just like those rocking chair winners. If I can just sit back and relax on Sunday, that would be great.
No problem, Cal. I have got you covered. As a matter of fact, you can hang out in the rocking chair just down the road because I'm going the Tampa Bay Bucks. It doesn't get any easier than that as they're going to be welcoming in the LA Rams. Let's be realistic. Both of these teams, what's the word? Suck. That's about right. Yes, that's exactly what it's been like here. Neither of these teams are as good as they thought they were going to be. The Bucks have lost, 5 of their last 6. The Rams have now lost 3 of their last 4. Neither of these two teams can run the ball at all here. But when it comes down to it, the Bucks can limit some turnovers here. Tom Brady has only thrown 1 interception in week 1. He has not thrown any since then. So all the faults that we've talking about, Tom Brady's not going to turn the ball over. I think the Tampa Bay defense is ready to handle business and win a game. And Tom Brady, it ain't going to be like this forever, guys. I think a little time off here. I think now that the dust is settled with all the off-the-field issues, Cooper Kupp got hurt at the end of the game. Guys, you better monitor what his availability is because I think if he is unable or gets ruled out of this game, you ain't getting 2.5 like you can right now. In fact, I still don't think 2.5 is going to be around all week, which is why I'm hopping on Tampa Bay to be able to get it done at home against the Rams with an eye on Cooper Kupp not being able to contribute in this game. Tampa Bay Bucks defense will get it done. Brady will get it done. Lay the 2.5, Cal.
Oh, boy. We've talked about Giselle and her little witchy things that she does. I don't know how I feel about it. And I'll actually be at Gillette Stadium on Sunday with our good friend CT Bet. So
Nice.
I won't know what it's like to be sitting in a rocking chair. I will probably be freezing my ass off instead.
Have you checked out all the new handicappers at WagerTalk? If not, here's your chance. You can take 50% off your first daily or 3-day all-access purchase at WagerTalk using coupon code TRYWT. Our new roster of experts is 30 deep, covering sports from all around the world, giving you tons of options to choose from. All you have to do to redeem this offer is go to WagerTalk.com, choose a handicapper of your choice, and use coupon code TRYWT at checkout, saving 50% on your first purchase.
It is time to recap NFL Week 9. Starting off with Thursday Night Football, Marco says take the double digits with Houston, and that was a reluctant take it because Joe says lay it with Philadelphia in the first half, -7.5, because that team just cruises early on. Then we got Sunday Night Football, another double-digit underdog. Marco D'Angelo says, give me those points, and Joe saying lay it in the first half. Maybe we can get a nice little sweep there with the primetime game since nobody is head-to-head. Joe, for some godforsaken reason, is giving me a 3-team 10-point teaser, and it's making my skin crawl. Buffalo -2, Kansas City -2.5, and Seattle +12. Marco has his traditional Wong teaser, Cincinnati -1.5, and the LA Rams +8.5. Are you high? Joe says the total in in New Jersey, in fact, at the, what do they call it? Meadowlands? Yes,
MetLife.
that place. Under 40. MetLife, that place. But it is the Meadowlands, isn't it?
Yes.
I don't know. Under 47 because of those divisional games. There's a couple other divisional games. You guys should bet those totals early. Hopefully we can get a winning week going 2-1. Those, I believe, finished up 3-2 last week. Sandwich game, Marco said, lay it with the Chargers, which is great news for my fantasy team because I was very scared of that Falcons team this week. Barking Dogs, Carolina +7.5 for Joe. Marco's got the Detroit Lions +3.5. And for best bets, I'm going to take Chicago +5. Joe says lay it with Tom Brady. He doesn't care Gisele's a witch. And Marco is giving out a total. That's how ugly this week's NFL slate is. Miami, Chicago under 45.5, which bodes well for my best bet. If you guys missed it, rewind, listen to Prop Shop. They gave out best bets for Thursday Night Football and a little bit of insight into Sunday. Ralph hit it out of the park with his TNA. Per usual, we appreciate you guys hanging out with us every single Wednesday. We'll be back Monday, per usual, talk that Monday night football game from Joe, Marco, Ariel, Ralph, Andy, and myself. Until then, let's bet on it.